Good morning, everybody. Or whatever time of day you're listening to this. So it's Monday once again. So we're going to go back to a lower body set. So here are the 4 exercises that I'm going to do today. Same kind of setup as last week. If you want to try and get 4 sets, if you need to challenge yourself today, feeling sluggish, again, it's not quite yet beautiful outside, go for it. If 3 sets is feeling good, then 3 sets is the right number. I'm going to shoot for 10 reps on each side. On some of these exercises, depending on the weight, if you're just using body weight, again, maybe you shoot for 12 or 15, right? If you have heavier dumbbells, feel free to make it challenging and do 8. You just want to get to that edge where it's slightly uncomfortable, but you feel like your form is still staying in place. So the first one we're going to do is a lean-in step-up, which I think just about everybody's done at the gym, right? You want to have that toe just very slightly turned out. You can set a stack of books against the wall to do this. You could use like a couple of stairs. You could just use a single stair, right? The height of the higher this is, the slightly more challenging it goes. So pick a height that's, right for where you're at today. I know we all show up differently every day, so find the one that's right. You're going to lean in. You're going to try and keep this back leg as straight as possible. Pull up, squeeze that glute under at the top, and then come back down. So leaning in, try and keep that back leg straight so the tension stays in that front leg. Leaning, pulling. Again, as long as your knees feel okay, try and get as much knee drive forward as possible before you squeeze up. That way you're really loading that front leg. Leaning, right, making sure that knee stays out kind of over that second, third toe. And once you get to 10-ish, you're just going to rotate sides. Same thing on the second side, right? You may notice that side to side, things feel a little differently. Try and make them as even as possible in terms of the setup and the execution, right? Leaning as far forward, pulling up. Try and find that connection at the top where the glute really comes under and that quad straightens. A kneecap pulls up at the top before you come back to the start. Then leaning, keeping that back leg straight so that you're really loading into that front leg. Right, the back leg's just kind of there for balance and to help you get the setup. But the work is being done on the top side of the front leg. Good, and then one more time. So lean in, step up. The second exercise we're going to do, everybody's personal favorite. Well, some people's more than others. Glute bridge. As you guys know, I like to use the block. It gives our adductors something to do so we can really focus on the backside of the legs. There's a few variations here we're going to talk about as we do these. So have everybody squeeze the block. So if you're at 90 degrees, a little bit more glute work. You're a little bit further out, a little bit more hamstring and glute work, right? So, maybe today we're going to pick somewhere in between. Try and keep the feet parallel to one another and the ankles in line with the knees and lines with the hips. So we're going to roll the shoulders back and down, right? Keep the upper body connected to the mat, right? And then lock in your torso, at least for the push up, right? So rib cage is going to come back down and get engaged, right? Going to squeeze up, glute squeeze at the top, and then 2 things when you want to come down, right? So if you're one of those people that has a super archy lower back, you maybe want to tuck that belly button in, curl down slowly all the way to the bottom, right? Working on that kind of separation of those vertebrae, curvature of that spine all the way down to the bottom. If you're one of those people that needs to increase the arch in your lower back, right? If you've got kind of a flat back, then what you want to do is maybe think about squeezing up to the top locking in this distance, and then instead of articulating the spine down, trying to keep a neutral spine down to the bottom. So kind of two different options. Maybe you play around with both of them. Do a set of each, right? Make sure you get a good squeeze of those glutes up at the top. And really focus as you come down. If you want to add a little challenge to those, you can obviously do a single leg version. I still like the block for the single leg because it keeps our hips even. Or you can even add a hold at the top of each movement, right? So maybe you hold for 3 seconds at the top. You add a 15-second hold at the very end, right? So if you get to set 3 and you're like, I got more, and add a 15, 20-second hold at the top of that last movement and really get those glutes kind of firing for you. All right, so the next one, sort of a challenging movement. I'm going to give you 2 options. The first one we're going to do is a variation on a pistol squat, which is just a single leg squat. Really hard to execute just from standing. So I'm going to use the TRX to help me on the return back to the top. We're also going to do another variation. So I have a TRX. If you do not have a TRX, you can use a super strong band to help you return. That may not be enough kind of pull, right? You could set up a towel, right, or a long rope to hold on to help you return, or you can do the other option I'm going to show you. So you're going to set up, transition the weight to one leg, right? And then you're just going to come down to a seated position, come back up. So if your knees can withstand that much flexion at the bottom, right, that much bend at the bottom, try and get all the way down. If you feel like you get to here and that's enough work for you, totally fine, right? When you get to the top again, set that glute under, right? Make sure that knee doesn't cave into the midline and stay connected, right? As much as you can, try and keep the spine neutral, right? Especially when you get down to the bottom of the movement, right? There can be a tendency to kind of dip that hip under. We don't have weight on our back like we do in a squat, like in our squat rack. So you're not really risking injury if that hip does tuck under, but just try and keep the spine relatively neutral. So I'm just going to demonstrate, I don't know how to do it, like maybe 8 on each side here, right? And again, like I know there's a huge difference side to side. So that's why it's good to kind of get some of this single leg work done. Good. Again, that way you can use as much arm pull to help you get back up as you want. Just make sure, try and keep those shoulders back and down, right? And still use good form. It's kind of like row form as you're pulling back up. So the other option, if you're not going to do the pistol leg, single leg squat, is going to be a single leg get up. So the trick to the single leg get up is finding a chair, stool, ottoman, surface of some sort that's at the right height for you. So I'm going to do the first set without any weight. So you want to find your seat, right? Try and keep the core, again, as rigid as possible, right? The less flexion and movement and instability you have in the rest of the system, the more you can really focus on getting that work into the leg. You're going to think about pushing the weight through the heel, locking this in, and almost like you were going to do a hop to push yourself up to the top. And then instead of our tendency to kind of just sink and kind of fall down to the step or the seat, right? Try and come back down with control. So this would be the option if you're not going to do the single leg squat. If you move your hands out in front of you, get a little bit of extra leverage to help yourself up, right? If all of this is pretty easy, if you're one of those people where all of this is easy for you, drop the seat, grab a dumbbell, you just hold this kind of goblet style in front of you, right? For those of you that have had any hamstring issues, this one can be challenging, like right out of that little piece of the bottom part of the movement. So I should have started on this side because it's my more challenging side. So that's your other option if you're not going to do the pistol squat. And then last but not least, we're going to do a variation on a deadlift or an RDL. So Romanian deadlift, right? So you want to set up a band, some sort of situation with the bands, right? So if you have the bands with the handles, you can lock in both handles underneath your connection to the door. If you have the circular bands, right, you can just loop it through and connect it to something. I really like this variation because it really helps you. All that hip hinging stuff we talk about, which kind of can feel like a mystery at times, it's sort of reinforced with this movement, right? So you'll notice that the band, you want enough tension on the band that you feel like it's pulling your hips back, because that's the movement we're going to do. We're going to start with our hips forward, glute squeeze, shoulders back and down, right? No weight to start, right? So usually in a deadlift, we kind of hinge forward, the weight would be in front. So hands are just going to slide down the front leg, slight bend in the knees, back stays flat. You're going to come to that point where you start to feel that stretch over the glutes through the hamstrings. Up, drive the hips forward. Hinge back, up, drive the hips forward. So if that starts to get easy, take a step out, put more tension on the band, bend the hips. The band pulls you right at the hips back, right? So you really get that sense that the hips are moving back in space. And you can really work on that kind of hip hinge, which, you know, is the key to a lot of those lower body movements, is being able to figure out how to move those hips back without too much fudging around with the torso, right? So keep the shoulders back and down, back stays flat, up and squeeze, right? So just to demonstrate quickly what it would look like with a little bit of weight, right? A couple of steps out, shoulders back and down, slight bend, hips hinge back, reset the shoulders at the bottom if they rolled forward a little bit, up and squeeze. Knees bend, hips hinge back, 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 up and squeeze. And when you're done, you can just set the weight down, which is kind of nice because then you remember where you were for the next set. And if you want to take kind of progressive step out each time to make it harder set to set, you can. So happy Monday. I hope everybody is well and safe. And your choice, you can do this as part of the new kind of workouts I'm going to send out this week. So you can mix this one with last week's upper body and core if you wanted for 3 big sets. You could add this to last week's leg workout if you want to just focus lower body. So you'd have 8 sets of just lower body, and then maybe you could do arms to finish if you wanted. Although 8 sets, you know, if you do 4 and 4, 3 times through, that's a pretty good workout in and of itself, right? So don't overdo it. Listen to your body. We want to show back up tomorrow to do something active. So stay well, stay safe. Thanks, guys.